This episode is sponsored by CuriosityStream. Get access to my streaming video service Nebula when you sign up for CuriosityStream using the link in the description. There's a secret story within Hot Fuss, the debut studio album by The Killers. A 3-part tragedy, presented out of order, hidden behind ambiguous lyrics, and with one part left missing for years. A trilogy of tracks that, together, reveal a memoir of murder. The murder of a woman named Jennifer at the hands of her ex-boyfriend. A classic tale of a romance gone bad. Murder is a morbid interest of frontman Brandon Flowers. One he describes originating from Morrissey's Sister, I'm a Poet.
I love the romance of crime, and I wonder, does anybody...
Flowers certainly felt the same way, letting that idea seep into his songwriting. For example, while touring Hot Fuss through Scotland, Flowers would hear the news on Jodi Jones, a 14-year-old girl who was murdered by her boyfriend 2 years prior. The tragic story became the inspiration for the song Where Is She? Written from the perspective of Jodi's mother, the song was heavily criticized by the Scottish press, leading the Killers to respectfully shelve the song and it never seeing an official release. Flowers has called it a great song, saying if I never would have said anything about it, maybe that song would be on Sam's Town right now. However, there was a murder story that did make it onto their albums. The story of Jennifer bears a striking similarity to that of Jodi's, murdered at the hands of her ex-boyfriend. Jennifer's story was intended to be the backbone of Hot Fuss, but when it came time to publish the record, the first song in the series failed to make the cut. The album wound up opening with the final part, Jenny Was a Friend of Mine, and the central piece, Midnight Show, was placed just before the album's closer. The first part, titled Leave the Bourbon on the Shelf, would only find a release 3 years later, on their rarities compilation Sawdust. Now, with all the evidence gathered and the story complete, let's crack open this cold case and investigate the Killers' murder trilogy. The lost piece of the trilogy is actually the first chapter in this murderous plot. Our narrator is on a drunken ramble pondering over his doomed relationship. He hasn't been in a good state since his lover let him go.
Shaking like the devil when she lets me go. Got a new place and how it's so much better.
He pleads with Jennifer to give him one more chance to make things right, but she's moved on and moving out of their home. As she's taking all of her stuff, all he asks of Jennifer is to leave him his whiskey, so he can continue to drown in his own misery.
Leave the bourbon on the shelf. And I'll drink it by myself.
What hurts more than anything, though, is when he sees her with someone new.
And who's that boy holding your...
It's unclear if Jennifer was cheating on him or if she's just moving on and seeing other guys. Regardless, he believes that if he can't have her, no one else can.
I can't be satisfied until I hold you tight.
With a twisted plan in mind, the boy asks Jennifer for one more night together, his one last chance at mending this heartbreak.
I know what you want. I'm gonna take you to a midnight show tonight.
He mentions a blanket in his back seat, insinuating they could have sex in the back of his car at this midnight show, possibly hinting at what he'll use to wrap her body up in if he follows through on his thoughts.
She turned her face to speak, but no one heard her cry.
Initially, it sounds like he wants to take her somewhere romantic, a walk by the waterfront to look up at the stars and profess his undying love for her. But things get fairly sinister when he points out that no one will be able to hear her crying. That is, crying for help. The boy attempts to talk himself out of this crime of passion that consumes him.
I know there's a hope. There's too many people trying to help me cope.
He's wrestling over his lust for this woman, thinking that if they just made love, they may be able to mend things.
You got a real short skirt. I wanna look up, yeah.
Reminiscing over their relationship, he thinks of how well they worked as a couple, but tries to bury those thoughts in order to see his plan through.
There's something in my head, somewhere in the back saying we were just a good thing, we were such a good thing.
He thinks on how she betrayed him, the other guy she's been seeing, and ultimately finds her guilty. And looking out at the ocean, he gets an idea.
I took my baby's breath beneath the chandelier.
On the surface, what might seem like a breathtaking moment of love and passion is actually an act of murder. The killer strangles Jennifer, literally taking her breath away, and throws her body into the water. The chorus finds him driving away in a panic from the scene of the crime. But a tragic sense of intimacy and longing washes over him. Secrets are usually kept between people who are close. They would have known each other's secrets, and this will be the final one in their relationship. The killer will keep this murder secret if she can too. Not like she has any other choice. And yet, under his own voice, we can still hear him sing the words, "She said she loved me." A line that connects to the closing chapter of this story. Once Jennifer's body has been found, the killer is brought in for questioning. The final piece of the trilogy has our narrator trying to piece together his alibi on the night of the murder. He tells the officer that they had an argument that night, but she had walked off, not seeing the point in continuing the fight. He twists a classically romantic line, but by holding her close and never letting go, he means strangling her, making her unable to scream, or breathe for that matter. It's a strange choice of words, as the killer continues to claim his innocence as he distances himself from their true relationship. He's attempting to amplify his alibi in saying he could have never done this, because they were friends. He loved her, and friends don't kill friends. Ex-lovers, on the other hand, different story. The police keep pressuring him for the truth, but he holds his defense. The killer knows that without proof of evidence, the police will have to let him go. But he's getting a little nervous now, and begins to break. The detective in charge of this case isn't buying it. He sees through the killer's facade. We never learn of the killer's fate, but it appears the cops don't believe a word coming out of his mouth. He's been overly emotional about the whole thing, and his story has some holes in it. When performed live, the line, "She couldn't scream when I held her close," is often replaced by "She couldn't scream while I held her throat," revealing a more realistic account of those night's events. The murder trilogy was inspired by the preppy murder of 1986, wherein 18-year-old Jennifer Levin was strangled by an ex-boyfriend in New York City's Central Park. It also stemmed from a breakup Flowers experienced, the same one mentioned throughout most of Hot Fuss. Flowers says he isn't the boy in the song, but that there is always autobiography in there somewhere, citing that it's tough when people decide to split up. But when somebody finds somebody else, that's the terrible part. It's the worst feeling in the world. Flowers originally had the idea to make a short film to go along with the trilogy. Paris Hilton, Anthony Hopkins, and David Lynch were among some of the names they had in mind for the project, but their focus was instead placed on their sophomore release, Sam's Town. The band has performed the murder trilogy in the correct order on only 2 occasions, once at Athens, Georgia in October 2007, and again in Sydney, Australia a month later. Both times, they were followed up with All These Things That I've Done, a suitable moment of reflection at the conclusion of this story.
All these things that I've done.
Unfolding over a number of years, The Killer's Murder Trilogy is a classic story of a romance gone cold. It's about the inner turmoil we feel when a past lover finds someone new. And while we may not carry out the same actions, we can relate to that raging jealousy, where we'd wish the person that has caused us so much pain had never existed. And who is more appropriate to touch on the romance of crime than the killers? Thanks for watching, ladies and gents. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like rating. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you're notified of when the next episode goes live. Because of YouTube's flawed copyright system, I've put an extended version of this video up on Nebula. My creator friends and I have teamed up to build our own platform where creators don't have to worry about demonetization or the algorithm. And we're thrilled to be pairing with CuriosityStream. Nebula allows me and other creators to continue doing what we love to do. Create without limitations. It's where we can house our content ad-free and even experiment with content that probably wouldn't work on YouTube. Nebula is already home to Polyphonic's Dark Side of the Moon project and Volksgeist's A Brief History of Music. I'm proud to announce that my Nebula original series, Middle Eight's Modern Classics, arrives this September. I'll be exploring 8 genre albums, the course of their makings, the leaps in their sounds, and their cultural impact since release. Albums that have stood the test of time, certifying themselves modern classics. But what does this have to do with CuriosityStream? Well, as your go-to source for the best documentaries on the internet, CuriosityStream loves educational content and educational creators. So we've worked out a deal where if you sign up with the link below, not only do you get access to CuriosityStream, but you also get Nebula for free. And it's not a trial. You'll have it as long as you're a CuriosityStream member. And for a limited time, CuriosityStream is offering 26% off their annual plan. That's less than $15 a year for both CuriosityStream and Nebula. And since you've got to stay inside, you might as well be soothed by David Attenborough's voice, or watch Chris Hadfield fly around the space station, or just watch Tom Scott torture your favorite YouTubers on Nebula. Head to the link in the description to get both CuriosityStream and Nebula for 26% off. Or you can go to curiositystream.com/middle8. It's a great way to support this channel and educational content directly for just $14.79 a year. But tell me, is there a music story that you think needs to be told? Let me know in the comments below. Follow us at moreMiddle8 on Twitter and Instagram, where we'll be giving away a copy of The Killer's debut Hot Fuss on vinyl. And that's it for me. Again, thanks for watching, and keep listening.